So, first item on the agenda is a summary of the interop event. We've had the blog post go up live, but besides that, we've had some really nice updates from both the block level access list as well as repricing, Glamsterdam, and fossil streams of testing. Does anyone want to give a brief summary from each of their lines of work? I'm just going to call on people. Barnabas, do you want to give a brief summary of interop from Glamsterdam perspective?
Yeah, sure. So Glamsterdam started out pretty strong. We had a working DevNet up and running by Tuesday, and then we crashed down. And we've been trying to get the Glamsterdam DevNet stable into a stable environment. Currently, we seem to have issues with a few clients. We are still unable to sync on Lighthouse, and the envelope serving from Teku seems to be incorrect, and we might have finalized a invalid state because of this on Glamsterdam DevNet 3. We've been discussing this issue on the EPBS channel offline. I think we could discuss it a bit more later on the call, but maybe not right now.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, not good, but yeah. Stefan, do you want to give a brief update on block level access lists in ED37 during interop?
Yeah, sure. So during interop, we spent a lot of time finalizing the spec for 8037, and we made some small iterations during interop, made pretty good progress. BAL-DevNet 6 is close to finalization. There are still some issues that we can't resolve with BAL-DevNet 6, and that we will resolve with a final BAL and 8037 DevNet, which I can share the spec for, but there seems to be some issue with the hackmd right now. So I will just share it as a gist, and I will see if I can get that fixed. And the idea is to keep everything as stable as possible for ValDevNet 7, incorporate the benchmarking into ValDevNet 7 from ValDevNet 3, where it has been running pretty stable, and to make some of the optional things like ETH70 and ETH71 required for this final execution layer only ValDevNet, and then to merge everything into Glamsterdam DevNets after this.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll talk about DevNet updates immediately after the interop updates. Maria, do you want to go for repricings?
Sure. Can you hear me all right? Okay.
Yeah.
So on repricing side, we were working, during interop, we were working on optimizations. And as Stefan was saying, they will be merged to Ball DevNet 3 branches. And we got some initial preliminary numbers for 7904, which is the compute EIP, and 8038, which is the state access EIP. I'm still working on updating the final versions of the EIPs, and the reason for that is that we still, after coming back from interop, we found a few more optimizations that clients are working on, and so the numbers we saw on interop are not yet final. And so I expect by next week to be able to give a more concrete update on 7904, so the compute EIP. And I think for the state access EIP, that will likely take a bit more time, but yeah, so I think now we are just trying to have more stable optimizations and fix some outliers to see if all clients sort of start performing in a more closer way. So we don't have like one client that is very different from all the others. So yeah, still some work to do there. And yeah, I'll give an update next week.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm just going to give a brief note for Fossil. There was a Fossil DevNet that was worked on during the week. I know that a couple of clients were able to get interop working, and there's going to be more work put into the Hegota line of testing. But yeah, for now, that was the, I guess, brief version of the Hegota line. Do we want to dig a bit more into what's going on with Glamsterdam DevNet 3? Is there any specific asks or something, Barnabas? What's broken on the DevNet, or what's the current status?
So right now we are trying to figure out if Teklu is serving the invalid envelopes, and if they do, we might need to restart the chain because I don't see a way we could recover from there. POTUS probably has more info. Yeah, sorry, I didn't see the chat.
I don't think we, at least I don't have any evidence of an invalid payload being served. The problem is sync itself. I don't know about Lighthouse. Lighthouse is having problems also with like getting payloads. The problem that Prism is seeing is that we are out of sync for whatever reason, most probably because we pushed something on the branch and we've restarted, and then we start getting requesting blocks and payloads by range. And the problem we see is that clients are not returning compatible blocks with payloads, which is the damn issue of not of like not going with the EIP that allowed us not to serve payloads. But anyways, the problem is that we are downscoring peers because they serve us blocks that are not compatible with the payloads that they themselves serve us, and therefore we just ban them, and then we end up not being able to sync.
One question, because I haven't had the time to look into this. So you're saying that, as you probably wrote in the chat, are we possibly serving hot payloads as full while our canonical chain is instead empty? So
no, it's actually the other way around. the errors that I found are mostly that you give us like block N, then block N+1 in the range, and then for the same range that we request payloads, you didn't give us the payload for N. So then when we try to interleave them, we realize that the same peer on the same range served us blocks that were based on full, but the payload wasn't there.
Okay. So we need to figure out on the logs, spend some time there. So, but
or we could just like drop the whole thing and not download the payloads and not serve the payloads. That would be much, much easier.
That's another discussion. But on the other way around, it's fine to you because if we serve all the payloads that we get, even if it was reorged.
No, that would be also a banning situation. We need to serve
Okay.
so when we request a range, we expect to get the exact range. It would be fine if you don't reply to payloads and then we get the payloads from another peer. The problem is when we get a peer that serves us inconsistent data, we downscore that peer. If a peer doesn't serve us anything, we don't downscore. We just say, okay, fine, we didn't get a reply. For example, you could have been like rate limiting us. But if you do serve something that is not consistent, then we downscore you.
We'll take a look. But seems like we are the only one because you go offline, then Lighthouse is not there, Lodestar has a similar problem, and everything is not working. So why only Teku has this problem?
No, I don't know. I only looked briefly at the logs and I found this peer ID that was Teku. I suspect that Lodestar has the same problem because neither Lighthouse nor Prism is able to get ranges. So I suspect that both of you guys are serving us the wrong range.
Might be. We need to double check everything there.
Okay, I guess the place for this discussion would then be the EPBS channel. Yeah, please let Barnabas know if there's something to roll out. Anything else for Glamsterdam DevNet 3?
I think we have also a bug in some cases when we self-build the bid, and we understood what was the problem, but is in our backlog to fix. I don't think is not is a big issue anyway because it's not happening that often, but still something we need to fix.
Okay, so if possible, we'd still try to recover DevNet 3, and if not, yeah, I guess Barnabas would coordinate launching DevNet 4. There's a few open PRs I wanted to discuss today. The first one's gonna be raising the min builder withdrawability delay to 8192 epochs. This is, I'm guessing, it's for making it more expensive for an attacker to spam new builder deposits. Is there any objection to this PR? Or is it a unanimous decision already?
I'm not sure if it's unanimous, but I think we should hold off until we do more testing, just for the stuff they were trying to test last week to see if just extending the min withdrawal delay is an appropriate solution, or if we need to implement the queued approach.
Okay, and is the testing there mostly just spamming deposits and checking the amount of verification time, or is there specific other tests being conducted?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, see how the network handles spammed deposits for like new builders. Photos.
Yeah, photos.
I don't see how the queue itself even solves the problem. The part of the queue that sort of like might alleviate the problem is the fact that we're also capping, not only putting a queue, but the queue itself, I don't see that it doesn't change anything in regards to deposits.
I mean, if there's something that would allow us to queue the signature verifications, it would solve the issue. but then it opens up other issues.
It doesn't, right? So if we still have to verify like the same limits as today, like 8,000 deposits per slot, and then we just need to verify 32 of those on an epoch transition, then we're still broken. So the thing that the queue allows us is to actually cap it. And then the cap
Agreed.
brings with other issues. But it's not the queue that solves it. The problem is the cap.
I agree. Yep. But why is it still broken? I don't get that part.
Well, if we do put a cap, then it's a different issue. But it's not the queue. The point is that it's the cap. And I agree with what Misha is saying, that the queue allows us to put a cap. Correct. But then we need to discuss what are all of the problems that come with having a cap itself.
I agree with you. There would be other problems from a cap as well. We should try to figure out to see if like the current approach of optimizing and increasing the min withdrawal delay is an appropriate solution. And if for whatever reason that's not, then we can evaluate the queued approach.
Yeah, Mikhail?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very curious and keen to see and hear from other CL devs. What do they think about potentially verifying thousands of signatures in one slot? And yeah, because we haven't heard from others on that matter.
I did a small benchmark on Lighthouse last week, and I saw similar numbers to what Terence was posting for verifying the signatures.
Could you reiterate what those numbers look like? At what deposit number are we starting to have issues with processing?
I think for 8192 signatures, like if all of them were valid and we could batch them on my M1 MacBook, it took like 700 milliseconds or something like that. And as you added more invalid signatures, it went up to like 1 point something seconds. So I think that is similar to what Terence was seeing. I did not get the benchmark fully validated. That's why I didn't post it on the channels. I can do the proper validation today and post it if I'm seeing actually similar numbers. But I think it is correct.
And these were for new builder deposits. Just double checking.
Sorry, could you say that again?
And just to double check, these were for like new builders, like not existing top ups or whatever. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
There is a more general concern here about the scaling with the gas limit as well. So for the most part on the CL side, what we have had, and this is potentially going to change, obviously with 7688, let's say, but what we have had is the limits defined on the CL side. So and that's regardless of gas limit. Like there's separate things. Now there's good arguments, let's say, to have them in fact not be separate things. And I wanted to conceptually, I get that point, but it also means that now if people are going to talk about let's say 200 as a target, but obviously increasing from there for Amsterdam. Now the question is, well, okay, people are talking about 700 milliseconds. Does that become 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds plus, and especially with 6-second slots being kind of on the horizon here as something there's already a strong push for. So I think we should still be a little bit at least cognizant of the time it takes to do these signatures and not just effectively treat them as quasi-free.
Okay, so I guess the next step for this one, as Justin said, is we continue benchmarking. We have a look at what the numbers actually look like, validate them, and then we take it from there. Yeah, POTUS?
I think we should probably have an actual number of what is the cost, at least an estimation of like raising this attack. Like we do anything else, we typically benchmark in terms of gas. Unfortunately, this is not the situation because it's not that it's consuming gas, it's consuming compute time on the CL side, but it also comes with a cost. It comes with a cost in money, and this depends on the withdrawability delay. So we should have someone computing the numbers of this is the cost at a reasonable rate limit on like getting interest rates. This would be the cost if it takes you 2 months to get out, and this would be like the cost of maintaining such an attack, so that we can actually have some actual hard numbers to be talking about.
The PR I provided did have some napkin math. I think it was like $50,000 over the course of 2 months at 3% interest rate.
So that's very cheap
over-
attack then.
Well, that's just the interest, but yeah. And that's that's per slot. So if you made 5 slots with 8,000 1/8 deposits, that would be $250,000 for 5 slots.
Yes. So realistically, I mean, the cost is just really not that much, and realistically, the only risk is social slashing at that stage.
But that's also the interest, right? That's not the capital you would require as well.
Well, but that's the thing. The capital, it's just irrelevant if you can take it out, right? So these are valid signatures. So the question is,
Sure, yeah.
would anyone be taking the risk that we might slash them? Because it's easy to slash them. It's easy to fork away that ETH.
Okay, also just as a side note, would repricings actually make any difference to this attack? I guess
Yeah,
not really. It'll just make
we-
the upfront capital more, but yeah, you still have the same cycle through problem. Sorry, go ahead, Maria.
I was going to say that Barnabas was asking about this, and I did a quick analysis on the current validator deposit contract. So I'm assuming that the builder deposit contract won't be very different from that. And with the current numbers we have on repricings in terms of gas, it will only be a 40% increase in costs. So I don't think that would be too significant. I think the math that Justin was showing on the actual costs in terms of the deposit amounts is more relevant here. So this is to say, I don't think the repricings will give a huge cap on what you can do there.
Okay, so I guess next step would then be try to quantify the costs and then get some validated numbers and present it at ACDC. Would someone be able to work on these 2 topics?
I can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. The next, sorry.
Can I have
Go
just
ahead.
one more quick question? Why is the signature verification so expensive, by the way? Would it not be possible for the depositor to take care of this, and then some lighter job could be done on the CL side? Same way as what we did for submitting the proofs for the blobs. We just pushed the responsibility into the person that's going to be submitting the blobs.
Yep, POTUS.
Yeah, so the problem is that if we had a different contract, the problem is that now we are using the same contract and the same flow and the same request. If we had a different contract and a different request that is sent for builders, then we could do the signature verification on the EVM itself, and then effectively we'll be capping the number of deposits by gas limit, which is what we should have probably done. But this comes with like significant drawbacks. Not only is the fact that we need a new deposit, a new request, a new engine call, and so forth, but also the fact that we need to be careful about like some paths. For example, we don't verify signatures when it's a top up, and this comes with UX things. I mean, some pools might use this phenomena that we don't verify the signature when there's a top up. You can argue that this doesn't exist for builders, so it might not be a big issue, but still, it's something to consider again. And just adding too many unknown variables makes me uneasy. It would be much nicer if we could actually just handle this at the client level.
Yeah, I do get that, but my question was mainly why is the verification take so long, and could the verification just take place?
So the verification is because of the pairing. We need to do pairings on the elliptic curve, and that's the costly thing. If we do this one by one, then it's a lot of pairings, and this is the problem. If we batch them, then we just do a lot of sums. That's not problematic, and then just one pairing, and this is fine. The problem is that if you get some random invalid signatures, then you need to like start like checking around to find out which one was the invalid one, and then you do a lot of pairings again. So it's easy to trigger in such a way that you cannot batch them.
Okay, I think we have I think that's most of the discussion points for this topic. I just wanted to bring up the consensus specs PR 5224. Is that also just completely related to this topic, or is this a new topic?
Semi-related. So this is the original issue of if an EL were to provide a CL payload with more than the SSE limit, it would fail to deserialize it and be unable to propose. This PR effectively raises the SSE limit to something that's like practically unbounded. So 1 million deposits per payload. So I actually prefer just fixing it with a progressive list, but we haven't decided to include that in gloss just yet.
Yeah, okay. I get what you mean, but it's also partially related because I guess this just blows up the verification cost again, right?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming we also don't want to merge this right now, and we'll just leave it on the sidelines until we discuss the full topic, like a solution for the full topic.
I think we need to decide if we want this like temporary fix or if we want to just do the progressive list stable container, whatever it's called, integrate that into gloss.
I think it's a bit too early to decide if we want progressive containers, right? Because it's a much bigger topic to be adding.
We have
Yeah, I think so
multiple
too.
clients that have already implemented it, and they have signaled that they would be ready. So I wouldn't shut that off as a possibility. I know that we need to focus on EPBS now, but we can just not trigger this bug on the DevNet and just assume that we're gonna fix it down the line, and then we should just fix it, I think, with the. Otherwise, we're gonna be adding something that we're gonna be removing later, and that just makes no sense.
Yeah, agreed. If the easy fix is just running the DevNet at 150 million gas instead of 200, then we should just do that instead of changing the spec twice or adding SSE right now.
I also agree. If others agree, I can just close the PR.
I agree.
Okay, I'll close the PR. And if for whatever reason we don't include stable containers in gloss, I'll just reopen.
Yes, that sounds great. The next topic was an execution API PR from Tony. I'm just gonna post it here. Is Tony on the call?
Yes, I
Yes.
am. This is a small change. So replacing one error code. Then recently we moved from uint 64 to uint 32 for the block access index. So most clients are already aware of that. We discussed it, I think, 2 weeks ago on the testing call. Then I also saw I forgot like the block access list hash in the header. Clients have that already correct, but I forgot it in the specs, and this PR is also adding it. And the last thing is adding a new RPC method to the debug namespace, namely debug get raw block access list, which returns the block access list in RLP encoded form. And those are the 4 changes. I saw Mikhail has already reviewed it. Thanks a lot. And also Ben approved it. So I think we are ready to merge that one after the call.
Okay, perfect. If anyone else has an opinion on the execution API, please have a look. But yeah, otherwise we would merge this in after the call. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is mainly DevNet scoping. So we have to scope up BAL DevNet 7 as well as Glamsterdam DevNet 3. Glamsterdam DevNet 4 or whatever version that takes, so the next iteration. Maybe we want to do this as breakout rooms just because the two are relatively separate. The only question is if the next Glamsterdam DevNet will use the same branches as BAL DevNet 7, or are you planning on pinning an older version? I think that question's for Barnabas.
I think we should just keep it as is. But yeah, we should definitely talk about the gas limit issue before we go into the breakouts.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Do you want to introduce the topic now?
Sure. I'm not sure if I'm the best person to introduce it, but basically, the problem is that currently, if we have a gas limit preference on the validator client, then the execution layer client will not know about it, and vice versa. So if the local EL is going to say that, hey, this is the maximum gas limit you should be using, and the builder proposes a bid in the P2P pool, then that there's just no way for the EL to verify that. But yeah, maybe someone can give a better overview than me.
Yeah, Nico, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so I linked the comment. So there was a previous PR from Jim, where we basically discussed if the CL should decide what gas limit to use during block production. So this was relevant because currently, basically, you set the gas limit on the CL side, which is then used by builders, and at the same time, you have to set it on the EL for local builds. But the dominant factor is really the CL gas limit, because 90% of blocks are from builders. So we wanted to use this, which is almost 1.5 years ago now. And for CLOAS, also first, this is good because it allows a user to only set this on the validator client. And currently they have to set it in 2 places. And the second reason why this is important for CLOAS is because we need if the CL wants to use a vanilla EL, then it needs to tell the EL what gas limit to use if it uses that as a builder, because you need to adhere to the gas limit that the proposer wants. So the current static flag doesn't work anymore for this.
Yeah, Tony and then POTUS.
Yeah, a quick question to Nico. Just from my understanding, the gas limit in the bit is the gas limit that from the preferences and which is set in a client flag on the CL, right?
Oh, that's a second topic we should probably discuss. That Bharat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I confused that topic now. Sorry. Let's do that afterwards.
So mine is just about when you have to build a payload in the payload attributes. If we should add the gas limit there.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah, and on this topic, I think the CL should then deprecate the gas limit flag and accept it in the fork.js update from the CL, because then we would never run into this issue.
You mentioned the CL twice. Did you mean the EL to deprecate the flag?
Not only the EL should deprecate it, and the CL would then be the source of truth for the gas limit. So validators would start their client with specifying the gas limit on the CL, on the validator client, and then we pass it from the CL to the EL. And when we build a block locally, this information would come from the CL and not from the EL using any flag.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm really curious about what the ELs think of this, though.
Yeah, are there any ELs in disagreement there? I mean, conceptually, it kind of makes sense. The block is being made by the validator, so the validator should be deciding what the gas limit is. Yeah, Daniel?
Just to verify. I mean, we have this rule that block gas limit can only be changed 1 divided by 1024. I mean, the validators have do exactly the same, no? I mean,
Yes,
yes.
I'd assume that I'm assuming that that is not being changed. Yes.
Okay, because I mean that would be consensus breaking. I mean this we will need to change. Otherwise, I think we are fine with
Yeah, it's
that.
just for the miner.
Exactly,
The
yeah.
proposed change is just for building the payload and not the validation of the payload. Validation would still be up to the EL.
Okay.
So it's just that earlier your EL would have either a gas limit baked in or a flag, and instead of having a flag or a baked in gas limit, you would rely on the validator to tell you.
Okay. Yeah, I think then it makes so I mean I can only speak for this, but I think it makes sense, yeah, to do that.
Or do we have Red, Ethrex, Aragon, anyone?
Who's gonna do the calculation for the actual gas limit used?
So I think the way it should work is we get the target gas limit, and if we are significantly below it, we increase by 10,024, and if above it, then is the last block gas limit by that much. So it sets our target. It doesn't set the gas limit for the next block.
Exactly, but that's how this works today as well, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying, like this, like we are not just blindly setting this. We are using this to adjust the previous.
Yeah, Potus?
Yeah, so the two topics are intertwined. I agree with Marius, and I think all of us in the CL, we wanted this to be the case, that proposer preferences set the target gas limit so that the user only specifies its target. And then on FCU, we should send this target to the miner, and then the EL would just reply back, eventually constructing a payload with the actual gas limit that was used. Then on the CL side, we have this other problem, which is how do we validate bits coming from the builder? And they are specifying a gas limit in their bits. And do we want this gas limit to be the one that the proposer offered as target, or do we want this gas limit to be the actual gas limit that the payload constructed? I think these two topics are intertwined. We can defer this latter discussion for the EPBS section, or we can have it now here. And I don't know if the EL devs want to have this discussion here.
I think it's kind of worth having here purely because it would change EL logic slightly. So let's just do it in the group, even if it's only tangentially related to them.
Yeah, I don't really get it. Then, so the idea is that you get some bit with a gas limit, and you don't know if this is a good gas limit. Then you need to compute the 10/24th rule on the CL as well from the previous head. Otherwise, we will just reject the block later on when we validate it.
Right. So there are two options. My idea would be that the user, as a user of the node operator would want to only specify a target. And then when we send proposer preferences, these proposer preferences should indicate the target gas limit. What the user is specifying, what we want this gas limit to be, not block by block, but just the target. Now we should accept bits. And now here's the question: do we want to take the bit with the target gas limit, or do we want to take the bit with just the actual gas limit? I always worked under the assumption that the bit was just from the builder saying, I am honoring your target gas limit that was specified in the proposer preferences. And then both the CL and the EL would make the check that the gas limit was compatible with the previous block. That would be on the EL side. That's the consensus part of the EL side. And the CL should do the computation that the actual gas limit is compatible with the target gas limit that was specified.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Ben and then Enrico.
Shouldn't the builder go for the block gas limit that's currently valid, and then their target is whether to decrease or increase it by the fraction? Not, I set a gas limit of a target gas limit of 100, and then I only want transactions that fill 100.
I didn't understand, Ben. Could you repeat?
From what you said, it sounded like the builder should respect your gas limit, but the gas limit you're requesting, but the builder should respect the block's gas limit, and then use your target as a signal whether to go up or down. Not
exactly. So I want the builder to respect what is my signaling to whether to go up or down. So he should be sending bits saying, I am respecting the proposer preference of whether we want to go up or down, but not exactly saying what is the actual gas limit that the payload had. So we can actually check later if the payload that was revealed is compatible itself with the gas limit that we proposed, with the gas target that we proposed.
Let's assume that the current gas limit is 50 million, and then I restart my validator CL whatever with a new gas limit of 100 million, and I'm the next proposer. The bids that I receive will be for 100 million, and then the payload that is actually revealed will be computed based on the 1/1024th rule, right?
Exactly. And then the EL can verify that the gas limit actually did increase by just what it was allowed, and the CL would verify that it increased.
Okay, yeah. Enrico?
Yeah, we're just echoing what Pedro says. So we always had reasoning about only target, and the only moment in which we have to deal with the actual gas limit is when we do the check after the block has been proposed. So whatever it is, the proposer thing or proposer preference, whatever channel we want, we only think about target, which makes sense and definitely makes everything much simpler. And actually, we have to not. We cannot change. We won't change anything if we do that. Say.
So we're also just separating the concerns. The CL only cares about the target, and if the proposer preference is being respected, the EL is the one that cares about the block consensus logic.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tony, and then Tony, Barnabas, Bharat.
Yeah, I think this is fine. The only question I had is also continuing from your example, Perry. Like, is the proposer preferences updated every time I set a new gas limit, such that builders are never using the wrong one?
Yeah, we send them a block, an epoch in advance. When we find out that we are proposer,
Okay.
we just pick it up from the configuration file or whatever it is, and we send it.
But what happens if I update my gas limit within the epoch, and then I'm the proposer? In this case, I would just reject all bits, right?
If you updated your gas limit after sending the proposer preferences, if you were so unlucky as to restart your validator right after sending your proposer preferences, and you knew that you were proposing, most probably you will send another proposer preferences, and I suspect that we're going to not gossip those because we've already seen that. I mean, it's not specified what happens on changes on the proposer preferences, but I think we just like reject now. We don't gossip proposer preferences that we have already seen.
Okay. Yeah, I think the risk is low here. It's just that this is then a very strict rule that I would just reject all bits that don't have my latest preference adhered. But I think it's fine.
But at your beacon node, if you just restarted the validator client, the beacon node is the one that is in charge of this, and the beacon node should have cached, just like every other beacon node, the proposer preference that you sent. So the beacon node will just send you to sign a bit that is compatible with your previous proposer preferences.
Makes sense. Okay, yeah, sounds good.
But the EL would reject that.
No, the EL would be fine as long as the payload, that is revealed comes with the right gas limit compatible with the previous block. The EL should be fine. The consensus on the EL should not change by this.
Yeah, but you're passing in, the CL's passing in the limit that it expects. And so if you were saying I want higher, and that was registered, and then you restart and say you want lower, then the gas limit's going to go up. The EL is going to get the CL's message saying go lower, and it will reject any proposal.
So the EL validation shouldn't change. The only thing that would change by this gas limit that the CL is sending the EL on 4-choice update would be just to construct the block. So when we send FCU to construct the local block so that we compare with the external bits, so this would be just one extra bit that we're going to get from our own EL. And then the EL as a builder would get also the proposer preference that that the validator sent. So the EL should be just like any other builder.
EL's validating the proposer split.
Exactly. So I want this separation of concerns so that is actually what, but at least in my mind is like it is. The CL should be in charge of checking that the proposer, the validator side, the consensus side is compatible with what the user is asking, and the EL should be concerned with checking that the EL consensus is passing. And Marius, the only change that you need to, so you're asking what you need to change? Nothing. The only thing that you need to change is that when you're building a block, you're getting an FCU and this with payload attributes, and these payload attributes will send you the gas target instead of you taking it from a flag that your user is sending to your node. So forget about that flag and just get it from FCU with payload attributes. I think it should be easy from the EL, and I was hoping that this was more like a philosophical discussion of who should be driving more than a technical one.
It's already happening right now because CL are sending proposer preference, so it's just making everything more consistent.
Well, not for local building, but I mean the EL underbuilds the blocks anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that becomes consistent essentially.
Barnabas?
I would seriously like to propose the idea to just remove the gas limit from the bid and from the proposal preferences and make it a BPO-like configurable limit on the EL and the CL side. So that if you want to change the gas limit, we would do it at a BPO fork. it would make the protocol significantly easier. And like this is such a small thing that we've been discussing over and over again. I just feel like it's going to make our life a lot easier and a lot more safe. Ethereum is just going to be a lot more safe protocol if you have this.
PK had a nice counterpoint though. Gas limits can be coordinated, reduced in times of attacks. If we tie it strictly to BPOs, then you need a fork to thwart the attack.
Yeah, I mean, same for if the block count is too high, then we still need the fork to remove it, to lower it.
I believe we should always leave the opportunity to have an override. Because anyway, it's a user can be changed by the user if theoretically. So a user should be able anyway to override if he wants to.
Yeah, I think you're going to need at least an EIP to convince people and discuss on. But yeah, I don't think it would be as simple as that. It might be a contentious decision. But yeah, please bring it up with an EIP and potentially on ACDE as well. Yeah, Bharat?
Yeah, hello. I just wanna just like summarize like my understanding of the gas limit check on the bid. Like, so I think what we're agreeing upon is that the bid, the gas limit in the execution payload bid and in the payload envelope is the target gas limit. And when we send the payload to the EL via the engine API, the EL is responsible for ensuring that the calculated gas limit is accurate. And if it's not, the block gets like rejected from the EL. Just clarify. Because the spec today, like in the consensus spec, we specify that the gas limit in the bid should be the gas limit to the constructed payload, which is the calculated gas limit. So, like, yeah, if we agree upon that, we only want to set the target gas limit in the bid and the envelope. I can, like, we can make a change in the like spec to just like note that. So, just wanted to clarify my understanding.
Yeah, I assume Potos wants to answer this one.
Yeah, I wanted to give an example. So yeah, so if it's specified now that the bid should be the actual payload's gas limit, that's just wrong. That's not a check that we should do. I believe that the natural check is the following. The proposer sends the proposer preferences saying, I want a gas limit of 200 million. The current gas limit is, say, 300 million. Okay. Now, the builder should be sending bids saying, I would send this gas limit, would honor the 200 million gas limit. So that's a signal that the builder is sending the right direction of the target. So now we only accept bids for 200 millions, even though the current gas limit is 300 million. Now the payload is revealed. And let's suppose that the payload is revealed for 300 million plus a tiny bit, plus epsilon. We send this payload to the EL. The EL makes a validation with respect to 1559 rules, and the payload is valid. It increased, and it increased by a little bit. But the CL makes a validation against the target, and the payload is invalid because the payload did not honor the target that the proposer wanted. The target was 200. The gas limit should have been lower than the 300 million. I hope this was clarifying enough. Nico was asking exactly the same question.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. Yeah. So basically, the CL only cares about like the target and not about the EL only, and the entire like calculated gas limit computation validation is on the EL.
The
So
EL
because
keeps the same validation as today, which is 1559 rules, and the CL adds a validation against the proposer preferences.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense to me. Like,
I have a quick question. So in that scenario, we have 300 million block. My preference is 200 million. I send 200 million to the builder. The builder now returns me 299,999,999 block, which is valid from the CL because it's below the 300 million, which is valid from the EL because it's like less than the 1024th rule, but it's not really what a local builder would have done, because a local builder would have done, I don't know, 298,000, 8
Right,
million,
exactly
whatever.
subtracting the maximum that it should have subtracted.
Yes.
And I
Yes,
think
exactly.
that the CL should take care of saying that this is invalid from the CL side. Every CL has the numbers to check that this block did not satisfy the proposal preferences. We should enforce this at the consensus level. This is an easy check also.
Tony and then Nico Bharat.
Yeah, just to summarize for me. So basically during block validation, if the gas limit is increased or decreased, that is all done fully by the CL, and the EL will only check that the 1/1024 rule was obeyed. So this is one thing, and then for block building, we can agree on deprecating the flag on the on the EL, sorry, and the CL will pass the gas limit, the preferred gas limit, to the EL, but the EL should never store that, right? The EL will just enforce the 1559 rule and will never reject the block that, for example, goes into an opposite direction of the last fork chess update payload attributes.
Could we get a comment from other CLs about this? Seems like Potus is in favor. Okay, what's the next step here? Is there a spec that has to be updated and a PR we can discuss this on, or how do we proceed? I think to Marius's earlier point, what is concretely changing from the EL and CL that we have to implement in the next DevNet potentially?
Change to the payload parameters in the engine API. I think this is the only change on the EL.
Okay, perfect. Potus, would you be able to make a PR for this?
Can someone else do the engine API? I have an allergy to APIs.
I think Nico had an API, or at least Nico, you posted an engine API change already.
All right,
We
probably
could
Jim
use that
already
one.
had one.
Yeah, I think Jim.
Yeah,
had one,
but that one is probably outdated. But yeah.
I nominate Nico for this.
I also nominate Nico.
Nico, if you have some time this week, could you update it, and then we can set aside some time on ACDC this week and then merge it in latest by next week?
Yeah, I can look into that. But so the other thing was with the validation, right? I'm still not convinced what POTUS is saying, that the CL should do the EIP 1559 calculation. Like, I know we have that in the code currently to check the header we get from the builder, but it would be ideal if we can get rid of this code from the CL side, in my opinion, at least. And at minimum, we would need to change the CL spec, because currently the fork choice on execution payload has a strict validation against the payload gas limit. So this is wrong if we go with that approach.
So you'd suggest, Nico, that the EL does the target computation as well, and for this we should send the target on notify new payload, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was my idea. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the two options. But then for that one, you're gonna need to get some buyers on the EL side, I guess.
So there was one thing Barnabas brought up, is that this calculation might get more difficult with some EL EIP.
Yeah, 8073.
So I think from a decoupling point of view, it would be cleaner if the EL just does that. Because right now this calculation, I'm not even sure where the EIP 1559 is defined, other than in the EIP itself. I think that's where I implemented it in Lodestar, or where I got it from. So yeah, would be good if the EL can handle that too.
So you want to send the target to the EL, and the EL would reject the block if the gas limit is still within the 1/1024 boundary, but for example, it moves into the wrong direction.
Yeah, exactly. So in the example that we had earlier, we would just send the 200 million, and then the EL would say, okay, it moved in the wrong direction or not enough in the right direction, then we would reject the payload.
So the trade-off here is that the CL is doing a check that is of its concern because the proposer is handled by themselves, but the computation itself is on EL data. And I kind of understand where Nico is coming from. I still believe that it would be much easier for everyone if we do this check and we don't even send the payload to the engine if we fail this check. So we do this check assuming that the gas limit is what it's being promised. And if the payload does not satisfy what the proposer is requesting, we don't even send the new payload to the engine. And if it does satisfy, then we send it to the engine, and then the engine would check 1559, and also that the gas limit that is written is the gas limit that actually was used. So we're sure that our previous computation was correct.
So then, just to clarify, like we want to do the so we want to do the EIP 5059 check in the CL also, because I thought I was in the assumption that, let's say, like the proposer preference had 200 million, proposer preferences had gas limit of 200 million, like the builder in the bid would set like a gas limit of 200 million regardless of like the regardless of the actual gas limit. I was like a little confused there, but like you're saying that we will, in the bid and the envelope, the builder will set the gas limit, the actual like gas limit, and the CL will verify based on like the parent block whether it's the correct update. Basically, the 1/1024 update.
We could do that, but then it becomes slightly more complicated on bid validation.
We'll have to
it's
write
an
that
option
CL.
to send the bid. It seems easier to me to send the bid just like we just check that it's equal to the proposer preferences.
Yeah, but in that case, you would run it. You would have the issue where you accept a bid with the right target gas limit in the bid, but potentially like a wrong gas limit in the payload. So you accept a bid, but the payload gets rejected.
That's fine.
Yes,
From the proposer point of view, it's fine. The builder is going to pay anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so we'll be getting an API PR and potentially a gas limit change EIP suggestion from Barnabas, and then we can discuss both of these in future ACDs. Does that sound good?
I think we will also need like a consensus spec PR for the gas limit check on the bid. Because today in the spec we say bid.gas limit equal proposer preferences gas limit. I can raise a PR to which like checks against the actual gas limit, and then like we can probably make a decision what we want to do.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. So one topic we didn't get to is DevNet speccing. So we're just going to decide to do that async, and if we're not able to do it async, it'll happen first thing on ACDC this week. That being said, thanks everyone for joining, and sorry for the overtime.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye bye, everyone.